All right, I am going to do an off-leash video in the backyard with Rio. You know, this is all basic stuff, so it's not going to be anything, unless we get like a form of stimulus that suddenly pops up, it's going to be pretty drab in terms of our goals and stuff. I'm just going to be using all the basic foundation commands off-leash. My speaker's paired, so you'll be able to hear when I turn the e-collar on and off. And when she gets back far into my yard, you probably won't be able to see very well, or as well as I'd like you to. But you'll be able to see like when I turn it on and off, and like what are my expectations for each command, and just in general how I handle her prey drive. So I'll just go ahead and get started. Rio, let's go. So right now she's on a 6. Also, if you don't hear my commands, you know, it's kind of windy out, so if you hear the speaker, I've given her some form of command. So one of the things you'll notice just a little bit ago, I actually didn't say anything to her. She shot out, and I just started walking backwards. That's part of my motions when I longline work, is when they shoot out in front of me or to the side, I kind of walk backwards behind them. And the whole point is to get out of their peripheral vision. By getting out of their peripheral vision, I basically am disengaging with them entirely, and it gives them an option to tell me, are you with me? Can you tell I'm gone? Because if they turn immediately, I know for sure that they're aware of where I'm at and they want to stay with me. So it gives me an opportunity to see where their brain's at, and if their brain is no longer engaged with me, I have better success at capturing a dog's attention if I'm not in their peripheral vision. If they can keep me in their line of sight, they're less likely to respond to me because they can see me. So I like to get out of sight. So my motions are very much, oh, you disengaged, I'm walking backwards away from you. And what you saw Rio do is automatically come back to me. Which is awesome. There's a lot of physical motions that go into training that she has learned. Okay, I got to go back to my handler. I didn't say anything. So that was beautiful. But what she did do is she nose jabbed my leg. Which you probably couldn't see. What you might have seen is me flick my leg out in disagreement. So Rio does this a lot. We talked about the grunting and the moaning. That is, every time she's done it so far, especially in the last week, it's been out of disagreement or disinterest for what I'm asking her to do. So I've actually started to shh, enough, because you know, I get it. All right, this is not what you want to do. What you'd like to do is hunt. That's not what we're doing. Tough titties. Excuse my language. Sit. Thank you. Good girl. Sit down. Well, she also nose punches me. In fact, she's most commonly does it when I'm working her off a stranger, because she really doesn't want to be called off a stranger. She wants her to fixate, and she wants to escalate on the stranger. So whenever I have to call her off of someone that she's very apprehensive of, one of the first couple times, like, I don't know, it could take 2 or 3 reps before she stops, but she'll come all the way back to me and actually jump in the air and nose punch me. Or we've also referred to it as motorboating my hand, where she'll like, and basically to me, it's a way of her disagreeing and trying to get something out of me that she wants. Whether it be affection. Huh? Good girl. Good job. Or just kind of like, you know, the e-collar. Sorry, someone called, and when someone calls, it cuts the video out. So, But basically, I don't want Rio in my personal space, especially when I'm in the middle of trying to work her through something that she has a bad habit of, unless I've invited it, right? So if I call her off a stranger, this is really important information. If I call her off of a stranger and she wants to sit and lean up against me and push her nose into me or ask for some sort of affection without me having instigated it, that is her. She's controlling me. She is controlling my personal space. The putting the head pressure up against my leg without me having kind of brought it into my leg myself, that's her way of claiming me. She's actually telling the stranger who I belong to, which is her. And so by me actually disagreeing with that, I'm actually claiming my space and saying, no, this is what I want, this is what I need you to do, and it's not guard me, or claim me, or demand something from me. So this is going to be really hard for you guys because she's a really nice, easy dog. She's very sweet-natured, she's got a good temperament, but all dogs are pushy, and they're all manipulative for their own self-interest. I don't blame them. It's part of who they are. It's a self-preservation thing. But I think it's really important to understand and to be very aware of the conversation Rio has with you, especially when you're in the middle of a heated training session, and that you should be controlling your personal space as well as when affection comes in and out of the picture, right? So it's not, hey, pet me, I did it, pet me. No, that's not a good conversation. We don't want her getting demanding, especially when we're working her off of a stranger. So that's my little, since I got an opportunity to show you how I claim my space in that video earlier, I kind of wanted to go over that again because she's not real claimy. She doesn't lean on me a lot or try to get over my feet or get in front of me a lot. Like, she's really not bad about it, but there's just enough of it going on that you guys need to be aware of it so that she doesn't take over in the circumstances where you need her to trust that you've got everything under control. All right, we'll get some more work in here. Come on, Rio. Yeah. Come on. Go ahead. So I tell her to go ahead. When I say go ahead, it means go ahead and be free or go sniff. Right now, she's not sniffing. She's actually trying to guard my property. So if I stand here, she starts navigating the property with her eyes, and her ears erect, and she's just scouting the entire perimeter of my property with her eyes in prey drive. That's when she's guarding. And she's been doing that a lot more this week since she's very comfortable here at my house. I think this is your biggest issue, honestly. More than anything else you called me for. You guys called me for recall, but honestly, she's a guard dog. She guards your property all the time, I can tell. Place. And she has stranger danger issues, so we don't really want those two things combining together and creating more behavioral issues for you in the future, or teaching your puppy to do the same thing, and now you have a pack mentality who's guarding your property. That can be dangerous in some ways, even if it is soft breeds like labs. So basically, what I'm doing is I want her to be free, I want her to go do her thing and be a dog, but I'm going to keep calling her out of behaviors I disagree with and putting her back into pack drive, If she were to go sniff the edge of my yard and very casually air scent and be calm about my yard, I wouldn't call her off a much. But the moment I start to see her ears erect and she's really starting to scan the area for problematic people that might be walking by, I'm going to call her out of that right away and be like, and it's my way of redirecting her and saying, I don't need you to guard. It's not your responsibility. Nothing bad's going to happen out here. You just need to relax and be a dog. So I like seeing this on the place board. You know, hey, what are you doing? I guess I spoke too soon. She just had her entire hind leg in her mouth. Random. But, you know, the rolling around on the place board and stuff, I kind of like that. It's kind of like, oh, she's feeling a lot more relaxed and comfortable on place. It's great. I'm happy to see it happening. I still don't understand why she itches. Place. So what you'll notice that just happened right there, if you rewind it, is right when she got off, my e-collar turned on. And it did not turn off until she got back on place. So I really want her to understand that the e-collar stimulation will not turn off. And it'll even increase as long as she's defiantly breaking the command. This is huge, by the way, this laying down stuff. This is something that took me much longer than, over the 2-week mark to get. Usually dogs, I don't like them to go home until they are relaxed like this on place. And it, I don't know, this started happening like 2 days ago on her own. I could tell her to down, but for her to do it on her own is huge. So that's a sign of improvement. One of the reasons why I try to deter all the itching and scratching that she keeps doing, which we've talked about, a lot of it representing frustration. Honestly, it's really interesting because when I don't record, I really don't get it very much. So I'm not really sure if maybe my attention not being directly on her is part of the frustration. I'm not real sure, but she really doesn't do this very much off camera, so I'm a little confused. But, almost every single time she does it, she gets off place. So I feel like it's I call it a displacement behavior, where they're some dogs will act like they need a drink of water, or oh, I got an itch. I'll be like, sit, and they'll be like, oh, wait, hold on, I got this itch real quick. And then they'll stand and they won't sit. And then they'll say sit again, and oh, I got an itch. And then they won't sit. So if I give a dog a command, and they redirect onto something else and then don't follow through with the command, that's a displacement behavior. In other words, they actually understand what you're saying and they're trying to get out of it. And a lot of the times it works. A lot of people go, oh, you want water? Oh, okay, yeah, go ahead, get some water. And then they forget to follow through and the dog's like, whoa, sweet. I'm going to use that water bowl every time they ask me to do something. Place. I had to go up to 19 on that. So I'm not even really creating distractions. I don't know what kind of attention she gets at home, but I really think that a lot of this is just because I'm not giving her direct attention. The frustration and the breaking and all that stuff. It's really interesting. I don't know how attention-seeking she is at home and how much that's reinforced, but I imagine that that's part of why she's doing some of the things that she's doing in this video and in some of the other videos. Anyway, displacement behaviors are important things to recognize. If you say Rio, come, and she goes and gets water, you got to make sure you say Rio, come after she drinks the water. And if this is something that consistently happens every single time you ask her to come, she doesn't need water, she's using it because she's trying to get out of your command. Right? So if I say place, and she starts scratching all over, and then gets off place, I have to reset her. Because she's using, because I'm not certain at that point, did you really need to itch, or are you using that as a displacement behavior, right? So if I put her back on place and then she itches and gets right back off, now I know that it's a displacement behavior because she's repeating this over and over and over again to get out of the command. So that's again important information because you don't want her, she's not dumb, she's actually quite intelligent, and I feel like she's just sneaky enough and she's very composed that she could slide one of those in, and before you know it, if you forget to follow through, she's just gained some points over you. All right, we're gonna do some more work. I was going to, and she started to kind of get up on her hunches like she was gonna bound off that placeboard. So I backed off. Just testing her on place. She seems like she's kind of trying to anticipate everything and get off before I ask. I mean, it was not as clean, like it didn't happen as quickly, but it was better for you because you could see how I went about my timing on holding the e-collar, and then I think if you heard me, I said I'm going to my boost button. So, you know, I really only wait a couple seconds, 2 or 3, to see what kind of resistance. She's agitated. There we go. Let's see if she breaks place. So you can see when I turn the collar on and off. Might have been hard to see her though. But basically 2 or 3 seconds on the black, or on the black S, and then I went straight to the red S and held that, and she started to come when she felt the red S. The red S would have made that an 11, and she started to come. But after about, when I turned the e-collar off, there was a set place. Now I want you to notice all that itching and grumbling led to her breaking place. So the frustration is rooted more in the fact that I'm controlling her and less in the fact that she doesn't know what's expected of her. It's so interesting. She really never does this unless she's on video. I think she might have done it a little bit yesterday in a pack social when we made her stay on place for like 5 minutes. But it didn't last this long, and it wasn't nearly this dramatic. So now you can see all that frustration, itchy, itchy, itchy. She's thinking about breaking place again. Sit. Good. Good job. You guys need to practice place a lot with her. I would integrate it in, you know, Rio and place are going to be like the 2 main emphasis I'm going to definitely put on you guys, because she doesn't like to stay and relax on command, which means we need to focus on that. You know, when they struggle with something, we need to focus on getting them better at it, because, you know, clearly that's a sign of, I don't really want to be contained and told what to do. I'd like to just hunt all day, you know. It's like, no, you need to be able to come and sit and stay and relax when I ask you to, especially considering the enormity of exciting events that you provide for her in her life, you know? I mean, this is a dog who's got a home that provides everything for her on a scale that most people wouldn't even begin to think a dog needed. So if she's getting all these wonderful things, off-leash hikes, daily walks, plenty of fetch, lots of love, you know, then it is not that much to ask that she stay there and relax for 5-10 minutes at a time. Anyway, so when I recalled her before, there was a point where she tried to get out of the recall because the e-collar had turned off. Sit down. The grumbling and stuff, I know it's cute. I'm really starting to raise my voice to it and disagree with it or demand more of her from it, because it is always some sort of, I don't want to do this. I wish it was cute in a way that wasn't bossy, but so far I have not seen that. So if she's mid-recall, you say Rio come, and she blows the e-collar off, like, oh, you turned it off, so I'm not going to come all the way. You got to turn it right back on. She needs to follow through with those commands. So the moment you see the blow off, that e-collar should turn right back on. Let's see if I can get a couple more. Let's go. Here. Go ahead. Go ahead. wrong, but she's very responsive most of the time. My biggest struggle with her right now is still strangers and the place command. So she's already getting better at place because she's more like, now here we go, leave it. I'm gonna start telling her to leave it, leave it. Why am I telling her to leave it? Because the only time she does it is when she's pissed off about being put on place. You know, if she was stopping in the middle of the yard and itching constantly, it's like, all right guys, this dog has an allergy, let's talk about this. You know, but it's only happening when I say stay. So it's like, all right, I'm done, I've given you lots of opportunities, I don't think you need to itch, leave it alone. Just let it go and relax. Sometimes we have to start disagreeing with these displacement behaviors, because if we don't, the dog is just going to keep doing it instead of just relaxing and giving in. So I want to talk to you. I'm going to talk to you about one more thing. I'll do a couple more reps and then I'm going to wrap this up. But Rio, for the most part, has had low numbers on the e-collar. She's fairly responsive. She's a little harder in the field because the grass in the field produces a lot more smells. But you know, this is where all the pack hangs out. So the smells back here are insane. So the fact that she's calling off a 6 or 11 off of some of these things is pretty cool. She's very quick to respond, which is also nice. But I just want to talk to you about a couple scenarios that she's been in recently that got me thinking about how much I need to emphasize moving up on your e-collar according to her state of mind. Because when she saw my neighbor a couple days ago, I had to actually work her off my neighbor on a 73. On a 73. The e-collar was snug enough, it was fitted properly, there was no hair in the way, and when she was on a 73, it looked exactly like she's looked today during this session. There was no flinching, no yelping, just responsiveness. So, how did my neighbor make her feel? Crazier than I've ever seen her feel. She was beside herself, nervous about my neighbor. And usually, if I work a dog off of something that's that insane to the dog, right? Like we're talking like quadruple, 5, 6, 7 times her normal number to get her to respond to me. Not only does that tell me that that's a huge issue, but I'm also going to start to see how long it takes for them to let go through my e-collar numbers. So it took me several minutes to get her numbers down, and they never went fully down. They went down into the 30s. That's the lowest I could get her. So I took her from a 70 to a 30. That is huge improvement, but that took about 10 minutes of working her. So when I'm working with a dog and I want to see where they are in terms of progress, I want to see how quickly do they let go, and how easy is it for me to move on to the next situation, right? So if I have a dog that takes 15 minutes to let go of my neighbor, and then the next time I work them and it only takes them 10 minutes to get over my neighbor, we're making progress, right? If the first time I call a dog off my neighbor, they're in the 70s, and then the second time I call him off my neighbor, 70s was too high, so I had to go down into the 50s or the 60s, and I just continuously lowered my e-collar with every recall. Now I know the dog is calming down faster about the stimulus as well as letting go faster. So these are all signs of progress, right? Well, a couple days ago when I was working her off my neighbor, she was on 73 for about 5 minutes straight. In fact, I had to stay that high because and I actually had to keep backing down my hill and do repetitive recalls, because not only was 73 the number she needed, but she kept blowing my recall off. I kept having to lay on the e-collar again and again and again and again until she finally committed. And even once she committed, she stayed at 73 for several minutes after that. And then she lowered slowly, but it only got to the 30s. And this is a dog who works on very low numbers, right? My neighbor didn't surprise us. She didn't come out of nowhere. Rio was very prepared for this whole situation, and that just tells me how upset she gets about people she doesn't know on her turf, because you know this has become her territory now. I've obviously established myself in it, but her habit is when I get comfortable in a territory, I guard it. It's very obvious to me, and the intensity behind it is much higher than I was ever anticipating. So I definitely only have a couple more days with her, and I'm going to work on my neighbor once a day until she goes home and hope that I see drastic improvement. But I needed to tell you this because, one, this needs to be a center of focus for you guys. She needs to get over this. It'll just reinforce the recall and everything else, all the other commands that are important too. You'll have a dog that heals better and walks better off leash, hiking and everything, even if you do focus on this more, because it reinforces everything she needs in those scenarios. But really, we need to get her over this and feeling better about strangers and not feeling like she needs to guard. And you will have to be prepared in certain circumstances to go up as high as you need on the e-collar. Rio, come. I'm going to my boost. I'm going to go up, 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 up. Rio, come. Come on. 22. Now she's over here. Sit. I go when this is a low intensity situation, so I went up to 22 to get her to come. I don't know why she didn't want to come. Maybe it's because I was calling her off of fixating on the barking dogs. But when she came back, I actually went down to her working number as 6 because I could tell that she was really mellow. So her e-collar is not as easy as I was hoping. Let's go. Because there's a lot of ebbs and flows, a lot of ups and downs, you know, and you guys might make some error trying to figure out when do I go back down and when do I go back up, and there's going to be delays and all this stuff because you're trying to figure your dog out. And this video is supposed to kind of help you understand her better and also help you understand the e-collar and the process that you're going to be going through better. Sit down. Good. Good. Quit. She's just grumbling at me that whole time. All right. So I want to give you one more scenario. I was in the field yesterday, and I don't know if like a cat pooped in the yard, in the field or something, but she wanted to eat non-grass-like things in the yard yesterday in my field. And I was going to work her off that because, you know, I don't want her eating cat shit and getting diarrhea in my house. So I went up, I had to go up to 50 to call her off of it. And then, of course, she doesn't always calm right down, so she stayed on the 50s for a bit. Not very long, I don't know, 30 seconds to a minute. And I just kept working her through it until she finally gave in. Or I should say gave up on trying to eat the cat shit, or whatever it was. So, again, it's another example of, you know, Rio is a very high intensity dog, so if I don't get enough, if I don't get she's so sassy. If I don't get a black S response and a red S response, or her working number and a boost, you know, I'm only going to give her a matter of seconds to respond to both of those numbers before I'm going to go up fairly quickly on my remote. You know, you saw how quickly I went to a 22. That was a matter of seconds. So when I don't get a quick response from her, I know she needs to go up higher. And I wouldn't hesitate to continue to go up higher and higher until you get exactly what you need from her, because she will escalate and her numbers will become even higher if she has more time to blow the e-collar off. I would not worry about the number. I would just continue to go up until you get the response, because if she goes up into the 50s and 70s, yeah, you might be blown away, because I sure was, but that's what she needed. She didn't even flinch or yelp or anything. It was, she responded just the way I would get her to respond on a 6 or a 22 just now. So, keeping that in mind, you need to be prepared to not worry about the number and just worry about her responsiveness, so she doesn't learn that you aren't willing to go up as necessarily high as you need in order to get her attention. She will learn to blow through the e-collar and to ignore it if we don't address it properly. So I'm going to do one more series of reps. Good. So that was on a 6. It's like, why did the time before that, the only thing I can think of the time before that is that she kept fixating on the barking dogs. So, you know, some of this is, do I want to come to you? You know, and how many times has she not wanted to come to someone and hesitated? More times than coming willingly, probably. Let's go. If you're in the middle of a session with her, good. Good job. Good job. Play. Leave it. Leave it. So if you're in the middle of a session with her, and you've been going for 20-30 minutes and you're just calling her intermittently and placing her intermittently, this is a very casual session. Very, very casual. Leave it. But you'll notice that, casual or not, the aspects, leave it, the aspects of the training session in which I put her in pack drive, I'm repeating it over and over and over again throughout the session. And so if you get to the point in one of your sessions where she just kind of stays close on her own, you know, that's not a bad thing. That's just her pack drive overriding her prey drive. And so naturally we're bringing out the side of her that wants to be with her handler more. And that's why you called me. You want her to do that more. Quiet. You want her to do that more, and you want her to be more responsive, so when you get to a point in your session where you're starting to see that from her, you definitely want to look at it as a sign of progress, and not a sign of, like, we're not taking anything away from her, right? I didn't make her stay with me towards the end. She did it on her own. Leave it. So I know I went over a lot of information in this video. It is long. I am trying to get you guys as much info as I can before the go home, and it'll make everything move that much faster. Leave it. Place. You know, when you can always rewatch these videos if you forget anything. And of course, if you have any questions about any of the material or how this kind of plays into your world, write it down and be ready to have me answer those questions at the go home.